Ladies and gentlemen, and other people of questionable sanity, you will know why you're here. It's in the title. Valheim! That's what you're here for, Valheim! You've never heard of Valheim? Well then I'm not going to Valheim is one of the latest and greatest survival games to grace our gaming libraries following its release around the 2nd of February 2021. The game's aesthetic is shaped around Viking and or Norse mythology, following a loosely strict plot based around the idea of Valhalla, the hall of legendary slain warriors, of which all the greatest Viking warriors strived to ascend to and live under the peaceful and glorious overwatch of the great god Odin. Well, unfortunately for you, this dickhead bird drops you onto some sacrificial stone and says literally, kill a god or no Valhalla for you wear pre- You, being the very barely clothed, mute loser that you are, must now figure out a way to establish yourself in this, well, this beautiful world. Seriously, the graphical style the developers of this game have gone for is fucking brilliant, and genuinely something that most survival games haven't touched as of late. Whoever says this stuff is outdated genuinely sounds like a lunatic to me, because even I had my doubts about it until I started to explore and feel just how well the colours match the soft pixelated tones of the environment around me. A feeling I've always found myself missing in survival games, because half the time I have to worry about not starving to death or fending off some crackhead from my oh my god, it's happening again! Right off the bat, players may fall in love with this particular graphic sense, noticing that the real cream of the crop here is in the render distance. I assume, from a graphic design standpoint at the very least, don't at me, that this was used to reduce both the overall storage size of the game itself, whilst giving the environments their own unique look and feel to them. I mean, as of the 16th of March 2021, it's nowhere bigger than on a PC for crying out loud. Meanwhile, stuff like Ark and Conan Exiles, they're great games, but look at how fucking big they are. At least I can install Valheim without worrying whether or not I'll be covering my rig in gasoline and lighting my SSD on fire. Plus, over here in Boganland, a 3GB game that actually plays better than most AAA titles is a blessing, because when I download the next Warzone update, I can hear Telstra employees crying in the distance. But enough about me and my abysmal internet, let's talk about Viking Simulator 2021 for a few minutes. After making my handsome boy, and naming my world accordingly, I set off to Valheim in the very first attempt to survive and conquer the land before me. Pretty much straight away, I met the same dickhead bird that dropped me into this cold, unforgiving north, so naturally I punched it and it exploded. First things first, you probably shouldn't do that, as the crows act as tutorials for the first time players. In the event that they do disappear, like mine did for some reason, you can reset the tutorials in the gameplay settings. Afterwards, I got to work, but where to start? I mean, the crows literally told me to figure shit out as I go along. So the first thing I did was punch some trees, and what do you know? I'm actually progressing. Similar to some classic RPGs, Valheim has a character development system that requires you to get stronger through repetition. Now, you'd think because I used that word that this game mechanic would quickly feel stunted and boring. But it literally doesn't get in the way at all. There is no level up system, and for once I embraced it, because it meant I can truly play the way I want to, with whatever weapons I liked best, without worrying about having to upgrade shit I didn't need. One of the more unique aspects to this particular system is that the skills stay hidden until you attempt to do them for the first time. I was legitimately surprised to find out that in the absence of a decent stone pickaxe, punching the trees, wouldn't you know it, upgrades my punching. Eager to put my fists to good use, I set out to try and kill some shit, only to find out that the only thing to tame these beasts was a nice club to the cranium. So I made some out of the wood around me, and eventually managed to kill a few creatures, including a wild boar. This was particularly interesting. This was particularly interesting, because upon receiving the materials, I was able to craft a lot more stuff. Interested in crafting said items, I knew I would not be able to get anywhere without a shelter. And this is one particular area where the game tends to become a little janky. You require a workbench to craft stuff like walls, roofs, and floors for a house, and some of the more advanced early game equipment, as I mentioned before. Unfortunately, the game requires you to have the workbench under a shelter at all times, or else some aspects of upgrading the workbench will not work, and this is where I became confused.
What the fuck do you mean it needs a roof?
Now, to be fair, I'm still quite new to this game, and I am reviewing it knowing that this game is still in some of its early stages. But I am also reviewing it based off of what I have experienced, and I refuse to use a walkthrough just yet because I want my experience to be determined by my ability to think and adapt to stuff. That being said, they could work on the snaplock system involved in building pieces. This shelter you see here was a pain in the ass to create because of how janky the freeform snaplock system was. Once you have placed an object, like a floor tile, you can easily snap other floor tiles to it and create the foundation of your shelter. However, placing this on the ground tends to result in the grass clipping through the floor and into your home. You can resolve this by placing wooden poles and then creating your home around that, but half the time when I go to reconfigure the bloody thing, one of the legs is just not long enough, so my house's back end just floats like the grass is goddamn lava. However, I was determined to make this beautiful landscape my home. The world out there, it was mine to cultivate. It was mine to live off of, with my hammer in one hand and my axe in the other. I set out to deforest just enough trees so I could make myself a place to rest my Viking helmet. Now do be aware that whilst you're out there chopping down trees, you may get attacked. For that, the game gives you the ability to craft a club, which will fend off most of the woodland creatures that try to attack you in the first area. Also be aware that you have a stamina bar, which will gradually deplete as you swing your weapon, and also being a survival game, a Viking needs to eat. Your vitality is generally based around your character's well-being, rather than through his stats. If you equip yourself with better armor, and feed off of the local berries, or meat if you can get it, you'll find your maximum health increasing, allowing you to withstand more damage that you are ultimately going to take. Establishing my lodge, I was about to focus on the future. Now that I have a shelter, where will I go from here? What awaits me out beyond these beautiful woods? What the actual fuck is up with that big tree thing in the sky? All these questions, suddenly interrupted by a foreboding message. Yes, that's right. Like all good Vikings once did, you must defend your homeland, no matter how small it is. Your ultimate goal is to defeat the gods that rule over the very trees you chop, to the boars you slaughter for hide and tooth. Only through defeating them will you have a chance to join the greatest warriors in Valhalla. But you are being hunted. In particular, I was being attacked by the minions of... Okay, I'm literally gonna butcher his name, but... Eikthyr? He was hellbent on seeing me destroyed, so I valiantly took up my club and axe and fended off the onslaught of tree spirits, lurklings, and savage wild boars, until one literally came out of nowhere and butt-plugged me. I recovered my items and shook off my shame, but those were my first impressions of the Viking survival game, Valheim. Now, before I round off this video, the developers of this game did a phenomenal job, considering that they are literally a team of 5. I most notably want to applaud them for their choice of environmental design, as I have witnessed far too many survival games that rely on jaw-dropping graphics to create the atmosphere for them, when it's more about the feel, the sound, the sights. So what if my damn trees look pixelated? I can't fucking tell from here, because you knew that the render distance would work in your favor. Please, do not change this. It's amazing. Disagree if you wish, angry Reddit man, but I stand by this opinion in particular. It is because of this graphical choice that I think the game has become so accessible to people. I am seriously looking forward to pouring more hours into this game and seeing just how much more it inevitably has in stock for me. I mean, 5 million people have taken up the title of a Viking warrior, and that's partly because of how easy it is to run. I mean, if it can run on fucking Vista... But in all seriousness, get this game. It's cheap, it's beautiful, and most of all, it has multiplayer. Thank you so much for watching this first impressions video on Valheim. To the 5 people at Iron Gate Studios, you have done a phenomenal job. I'm currently in the process of learning how to 3D model, so I'm learning how to appreciate graphics a little bit more than I should. Yes, I am aware that I only poured a few hours into this game before making this review. The point of this review was to actually show what my first impressions of Valheim were and why I enjoyed them so much, so please take it easy on me in the comments, or just absolutely demolish me in the comments if you wish. I don't really mind, it is your opinion after all, and you are entitled to it. Thank you for watching, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Max Blade out.